Hello, I'm Matthew and I have epilepsy. I've had it since I was 10 years old. Um, the first seizure I had was, it actually felt like I was going to die because it's an experience where you don't really know what's going on and you don't really actually think that sort of thing would actually happen to you. I remember going downstairs. I was just coming back because my brother was playing a game, and we were on our way to Madeira the following week, and I had no idea what was going on. I was in the middle of the stairs, and suddenly I just collapsed, and everything went black. And before I knew it, I was in the ambulance, and after a few weeks, and had a few seizures after that, and they were both quite terrifying as well. But I found I had an epilepsy. Um, I'd say after a while, once you grow up with epilepsy, you find that it's not really as bad as you think it is if you keep it controlled. Um, I've always tried to not be able to depend too much on others when it comes to my epilepsy, but I know that they're always wanting to try and help me because it's a condition where you're really actually susceptible to quite a lot of injury and mental trauma, and it's quite well. I've not really experienced the mental trauma myself. I can only assume that because I had all my seizures at home and not in front of other people. I can only assume that it's quite devastating, and you've just got to stay strong because it's the type of thing where you've just got to be able to um,
Accept.
yeah, accept. It's just being able to accept about you know what you have and who you are, and it's just about moving on practically. It's not that it's it depends on your viewpoint, I think. If one person thinks negative about their condition, their your condition's only gonna worsen. It's only natural because you're gonna think less about yourself, and you're not going to care about what happens to you. Positive person will try to look forward, and they'll always be they'll try to keep it in control, and they'll try to be able to take their pills, try to get good sleep, um, always avoid alcohol, don't drive, don't cave into peer pressure, because that's the number one thing you should not do. Because if you cave into peer pressure, you're bound to have a bad experience. Because just last Christmas, I was just drinking champagne because it was Christmas. I didn't have a lot of sleep the other day, and I had a seizure, which was quite a tonic-clonic seizure, and that was quite it was quite a surprise because I hadn't had one in so long. It was so many years since I had one, and I think it just really reminds you you know, just to sort of be able to, you know, understand, because just after so long you just keep you're taking your pills and you're just trying your best, but and all of a sudden you have a seizure, and it just reminds you that you've got to do all these things. Even if you feel you're seizure free, you still have to take your pills. Do not stop taking your pills, because they keep you in control. And if your pills can't control you, you've still got to try and accept that no matter how bad it gets, you've just got to try and just try and visualize yourself moving forward, because I feel that helps a lot, especially when I first got it and I didn't understand what was going on. I think one of the most important things that I think that I could tell you from this video is that don't try and take as much support from your family as possible, because they're trying to help you. They're wanting to be able to in some way give you some sort of emotional support. And when you have a chronic condition, any kind of chronic condition, you really do need that support. It helps give you drive, you know. So I wouldn't take that away, and you know, it's a lot to take in, especially once you first have epilepsy. So all I'd say is it's just it's quite it's just not as bad as you think. As long as you keep it controlled.
So taking medication.
Yeah, medication.
And learning how to understand your triggers so that you don't trigger yourself into a seizure.
Yeah. For example, my triggers, it's not so much about missing sleep. It's when I change my sleeping patterns. So if I sleep longer one night, and then the next night I don't sleep as much, my seizures tend to increase a lot more. Just focal seizures, they're not tonic-clonics, but you've got to be aware, and you can't be reckless at all.
So it's taking responsibility to have some form of quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So having epilepsy for you hasn't meant that it's diminished your quality of life?
No, I wouldn't say. I think it's more because as I've grown up with it, it's more of you've just accepted it, because I got it at a young age. But I think if I got it when I was much older, I think it would be different. I'd be more self-aware. I might not take as much responsibility as I would have when I was younger. And I think that that responsibility, it's huge, because not only does, you know, having epilepsy, it puts a huge strain on your family. I should know. So you've just got to try and just know your triggers, and always try and
minimise the effect that it would
Yeah.
have. So you don't want to have seizures, and so you're controlling your life, controlling your triggers, maintaining a sense of responsibility towards looking after yourself.
Yeah, it's really important, because once you actually, even if something small, for example, you could be one night with very little sleep, and I'm not necessarily knowing what your triggers are, but if you do not have a lot of sleep one night, and say you didn't know that was your trigger, you could actually have a tonic-clonic, for example. And I'm not going to assume that everybody is the same, because they're not. But the one thing to avoid is alcohol, because even in a culture where people drink, and even at a certain age it's sort of forced upon you, like you have to drink, but you can't, because it'll it's not good with your medication, and you'll end up having seizures.
So do you feel sometimes different to other people? Do you envy other people and what they can do, like drive a car, be reckless with their lives? Do you envy them for that, or do you just say, no, I can do other things with my life?
The funny thing is, I've never really wanted to do... I'm not a thrill seeker, which is strange. So I've never really actually wanted to drive a car, which is a funny thing. But I know a lot of people who would. And because a lot of people at my school, and back in Australia when I went there, most of them wanted a car, and a lot of them. And I know that if one of them had epilepsy, and there's all this peer pressure of having a car, they would be deprived of that, and they might feel quite left out, so to speak, not part of the group. I suppose it could be, but you've got to see it in a different way. You can't see it through like tunnel vision. You've got to see. You can't just be looking at one thing. You've got to be looking at the sky. I know it's an interesting metaphor, but
you've got to see the bigger
broad
picture.
Horizon, yes, you've got to see broad horizons.
Yes. And the bigger picture of things.
It's not all about what will happen to you if you don't do this, and it's what about you can do if you do this, you know? So and obviously I have juvenile generalized epilepsy, so most likely I'll have this most of my life. But I don't know about your epilepsy, but just keep in mind that if it's one that's brought upon by puberty, it might actually not be so severe afterwards, after puberty, and it might end up you might become seizure free. You never know, and that's something to keep in mind.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew, for that. You obviously cope very well with your epilepsy.
Yes.
And you said earlier that your family had to carry the burden for you and your epilepsy, and had to make big sacrifices for you. Yeah. That's what families are about, really, isn't it? It's looking after our loved ones, and it's great that you've had support from your family. and you've got a future to look forward to. You've just enrolled at university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So that's a new adventure for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. So.
And it's about pacing yourself there
Yeah.
too, isn't it?
It is. It's you've got to, especially when you have quite bad epilepsy, you've got to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, and I think that you're very, very positive and you're looking forward to a future.
Yes.
You've never seen that epilepsy is going to hold you back.
Yes.
You've been well supported, and that's really wonderful that you were able to share a part of your life with us, Matthew, and understanding what it's like being young with epilepsy. Thank you very much for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.